Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Quote Me Part 3. I'm very excited for this episode. This is going to be a lengthier one because this person has a lot more lore that like I said, kind of remember. And just give you a heads up that the timeline of events that are going to happen, that I'm going to explain, I'm more than positive do not correspond or do not go in chronological order. So, with all that being said, let's get into the character that I'm excited to talk about. Well, if you can see behind me, this glorious man here, this bald behemoth. This is Kratos, the god of war, or ghost of Sparta, or Kratos, the mortal of Sparta. Long story short, like I said, it's going to be a longer video. Let's see if I can remember as much as I can within 10 minutes it gives me. His story starts off when he's actually a kid, and if I remember correctly, Zeus heard from, I believe it was the Fates, a prophecy of a child that bears a red scar will basically destroy all of Olympus. So Zeus, being Zeus, got scared of that, and he looked around, was like, okay, see if there's any kids that are going to be born, and he sees Kratos' brother, Deimos. Is it Deimos? I think it's Deimos. Deimos. Now, for some of you who don't know, that red silhouette, not silhouette, but paint that he has on him is, I think it's just a tattoo actually. He gets that for Deimos because what happens is Zeus kidnaps Deimos and imprisons him, thinking that that is the prophecy child, without knowing that Kratos here will become he's a commander in the Spartan army when he gets older, and then he adds that paint to him to basically pay homage to his brother, who he believes is dead. Now, long story short, a couple of years go by and whatever, and if I do remember correctly, his mother gets sick. So he's trying to find a cure before his mother dies, and in his process of trying to find this cure, he finds out his brother's alive. He meets Thanatos, the god of death, if I think that's his name. Finds out his brother's been there, his brother's been getting tortured, beaten up, whatever. They have a whole hashing out sequence. They beat up and, take care of the god, make sure he's not going to do that stuff again, get him out of the way. And on his way back, I believe his brother does perish because of the events that happened during the fight. But when he gets back, he notices someone was in the room with his mom, talks to the mom. Mom turns into a monster, and he finds out that Zeus is his father, and he actually turned his mother into a creature, or like a monster. So then he had to, and that wasn't fun for him. So then, a couple more years down the road, he already hates the gods as is. So then down the road, he gets into a fight with, I believe it's like a barbarian king. He's about to lose, so he says the famous phrase, "Ares, slay my foes and my life is yours." And that's exactly what happens. He gives him the power, the strength to defeat the barbarian king, but in doing so, it kind of drives him mad and blinds him with rage, and kind of gets him to a point where he falls into I guess a hypnotic spell where he thinks everybody's his enemy. He's attacking everyone, and in that sequence, he ends up once again his family. And his skin isn't originally white. It's like a tan. It's debatable between people. He's darker. He's darker skinned. He's tan, darker than tan, if we want to argue what depiction he is. But the white you see on him is actually the ashes of his family that he slayed. And that is why he becomes now the ghost of Sparta. If I'm remembering correctly, like I said, the events of this timeline are going to be wacko. But yes, he gets the ashes on his skin, and he becomes known as the ghost of Sparta. So then, when Ares keeps having him, do whatever, or after that event, he actually says, "I don't want to do anything with Ares anymore." So then Ares, being him, sends people to get to him, try to slay him. Big whole fights happen. He fights, I think it's Daedalus. It's I can't remember his name, but it's Daedalus that gets into the thing where he rips his wings off, this, that, and the third. But then I can't remember. I believe it's once he does that, he actually perishes one time against Ares, then goes to the Fates, or he gets out of hell, meets the Fates. The Fates tell him that he's going to die again, give him another fate that we actually do this, that, whatever. He doesn't like what the Fates say, so that's another thing. He'll come back to them. I think it was the Fates and those Harpies. Like I said, don't quote me. He then fights Ares, gets help from the other gods to defeat Ares, because Ares is kind of getting too big for his britches, thinks that he's better than everyone, thinks that he could take everyone. That happens. He then becomes the new god of war. Second game, I think that's what happens. He's the god of war in the second game, or of events. I think so. He becomes the god of war in the second game. The second game happens. He is betrayed. Yeah, because he's betrayed by Athena. Then he's betrayed by Zeus. Then he perishes again for the second time. Crawls out of hell for the second time. During that, he doesn't like what the Fates say the second time he meets them. I believe it's 2 times he meets them. So he goes, beats up the Fates, does one of the most irresponsible things because he actually fights Zeus before he meets the Fates, dies in that exchange, or perishes in that exchange, goes back in time once he crawls out of hell, reverses that, and like I said, it's crazy because he uses time manipulation to go back in time to stop Zeus from making him perish the second time, which I guess technically retcons him perishing in that fight. I don't know. But all that happens. He fights Helios in that instance. He fights a lot of people. All that happens, and then what else is there? I think he's about to actually, like, Zeus. But then Athena steps in the way. He accidentally slays her instead. And then she says, like, you have to forgive me or something like that. Like, tries to give him a speech, and that makes him just more mad. So what he does, he gets the Titans, all of them, gets them out. He then climbs up Mount Olympus. And while he's climbing up Mount Olympus, all this stuff happens. At one point, he met Pandora. I don't remember how or where, but he met her along the way up to the top of Mount Olympus. He fights Poseidon. He fights Hades, everyone. Like, he fights every god, usually, that you can think of, like, the main 12, main 14. But yeah, he fights his half-brother, Hercules. He fights Poseidon. He fights Hades, Hephaestus, Aphrodite. He doesn't fight Hera. He just kind of, like, belittles her and tells her, like, look what you did. Like, look what you sat by and watched happen. And what's the other thing that happens? Long story short, he gets to the end. He opens Pandora's box. He feels bad for letting the girl go. He actually gets to see his kids again, but I already skipped past that because that's earlier on, I think. And he has to choose to let his family go in order to, like, keep doing what he wants to do. He ends up getting rid of them. I think every main god in that panthology? Can't speak English. He then jumps off a cliff, hoping to, his life. And then we jump forward. He actually went to Egypt at one point. I don't know much about that. He was in Egypt for some reason. I can't remember. Got beat up a little bit there. Then he found his way to where he is in the newer games, where you see him look like this. He's happily remarried. He has a kid, loses his wife. I forgot why. Him and Atreus go on an adventure to spread her ashes. Along the way, they meet Balder, find out some stuff about the mom, but not everything. They fight Balder's nephews. They fight, who else is there? A bunch of giants, trolls, a bunch of this, that, and the third. He gets a lot of experience actually becoming a father and being a father a lot to, like, a child who's actually growing up past a certain age. Because, like I said, previously, he his own kid, so he can't do anything about that. Well, long story short, we get to the very end. There's a lot of stuff I skipped because I can't remember it. Him and Balder go back and forth because Balder was sent there to originally get Freya, his wife, but he didn't know that till later on. So then they find his weakness because they couldn't, slay him throughout the entirety of it. So they find his weakness is mistletoe. They find Brock and all them. They find a bunch of characters and Sindri, their 2 dwarf brothers who are really cool. I'm running out of time, so I got to spit this last part out quick. Okay, then we skip to the last part, or years later, when Atreus is older. I think he's like a teenager. I want to say he's like 16 maybe. Long story short, this is where the other parts of the Pantheon start attacking him. Like, Atreus goes to, he goes with Odin. You get to see Odin, you get to see Thor, you get to see the Valkyries, you get to see, I can't remember her name, but it's Thor's daughter. Then you get to meet another bunch of gods. Long story short, same thing happens where they fight a bunch of gods, except this time he's actually doing it to free the people of what is going on. Like, Odin has taken over a bunch of different realms, the 9 realms, and he holds over with an iron fist. He actually stands up and gets talked into, like, being, like, a peacemaker, and that's different for him because he struggles with that. He struggles with himself throughout this. It was very beautiful, very it was a very emotional sequence of events where he actually gets to become more of a father, gets to see him, like, he gets mad at his son, he forgives his son, he loves his son, all this, that, spends time with them and everything like that. And a lot of stuff happens. He gets to meet Freya in the first game. She hates him at the end of that one. Second game, this is the newer Gods of War, my bad. But long story short, just to end this up, I love his lore. He's a very cool character. If you guys want more, go look him up. He's very cool and he's a very solid character.